Hey guys, Halina here, and today I'm going to be ranking the What If episodes from season 1, so stay tuned. Alright, so I'm going to be spoiling plot points from the episodes, so if you haven't seen the show, go watch it, come back here to get my episode rankings. Okay. In 9th place, I have episode 7, What If Thor Were an Only Child? Now, while I enjoy all of these characters, this episode was really nothing more than Thor versus Captain Marvel with Loki, Jane, Darcy, Frigga, Heimdall, all sort of scattered throughout. To see Thor versus Captain Marvel was fine the first 2 or 3 times that we saw it in the episode. But by the end of the episode, I was just screaming for the episode to be done already. We spent way too much time with Thor fighting Captain Marvel, and we didn't get much else within the episode. Now, of course, the ending aside, where Ultron shows up with the Infinity Stones, not much happened in this episode. In 8th place, I have episode 6, What If Killmonger Rescued Tony Stark? Alright, so, admittedly, I can care less about these two characters. That might be why I have it so low, just because Killmonger, Tony, I don't care about either of them. So, a whole episode with them being the main focus, not really my thing. But I will admit that I did appreciate that Killmonger was 20 steps ahead of everyone. And I love the hint of Pepper and Shuri knowing the truth and working together to prove it. I just wish we got to see that part. Yeah. In 7th place, I have episode 1. What if Captain Carter were the first Avenger? Okay. So this was the episode that I was most hyped for. When What If was announced at D23 and everything like that, Haley Atwell came out, it was this big thing. What if Captain Carter was a thing? What if Peggy got the super soldier serum? And I was here for it. I love Peggy. I love Howard, I love Steve, I love Bucky, I love the Howling Commandos. I love all these characters. This episode should have been way higher on this list. But it's in 7th because it was essentially telling the first Avengers story. Just kind of switching who got the super soldier serum. And nothing really big changed because of it. And I don't know. I just felt like they could have done more with this episode. They could have done different things with this episode. And this episode could have been really, really good. But it's just sort of... Well, that was First Avenger. Except instead of Steve, it's Peggy. So, okay. In 6th place, I have episode 4. What if Doctor Strange lost his heart instead of his hands? Now, the reason that this episode is so low on the list is because it didn't really do much until... Doctor Strange had to fight the darker version of himself, Strange Supreme. The episode essentially was just basically Doctor Strange replaying the crash like it was Groundhog Day, trying to do something different to save Christine, and okay, normally it doesn't bother me when shows do episodes like this. But that's when, essentially we're spending all this time with all these characters. And this is just sort of a fun one-off episode. But for this to be the episode in which it was Doctor Strange. And it was really the only episode with Doctor Strange until the end. For this to be Doctor Strange's story, I was just okay, I want more. Like, I don't want this Groundhog Day situation happening where, he's taking different roads. He's like trying to change plans. He's like literally like, I'm just not going to show up. And every single time Christine dying. Yeah, it got very tiresome very quickly. But it did tell a different story, therefore it beats out episode 1. I do also like that, Strange Supreme, I guess, can see the Watcher. Like, it makes sense because, he consumed a whole lot of magical creatures, thus becoming more powerful himself. So with all that power, I guess he can see the Watcher, which nobody else really could until Ultron. But, yeah. In 5th place, I have episode 5, What If Zombies. Just what if zombies? Like, what I loved about this episode is we essentially got to see the next generation Avengers. I also really loved the twist that Vision was luring unsuspecting people so that he could feed his zombie bride. Like, it was a twist that I didn't see coming, and I was like, I actually kind of like this. Like, I mean, it's weird, for sure, but it was an interesting twist that I didn't see coming. Also, the zombies, it was something that worked in animation, but I don't think it necessarily would have played out as well in live action. Yeah, I mean, it was a fun episode, but not much more to it. In 4th place, I have episode 2, What If T'Challa Became a Star-Lord? So, this episode is the second episode. We've just come off the What If Captain Carter was the first Avenger, which was basically telling the first Avenger story, but with Peggy instead of Steve. It was great to see that episode 2, didn't tell almost a beat for beat retelling of any particular movie. Like, it felt like a what if in the sense that, yes, T'Challa was Star-Lord and, all that, but his adventures with the Ravagers, that would look a little bit different. Also, like, with Thanos hanging out with the good guys, because it was T'Challa that was taken instead of Peter. Like, I really love that it was different rather than just sort of telling the same Guardians of the Galaxy story, or even the same Black Panther story, just with, the switch of T'Challa and Peter Quill. Yeah, so that was really nice to have. And, I mean, it was a fun episode. Like, yeah. In 3rd place, I have episode 3. What if the world lost its mightiest heroes? Okay. So, I love the mystery behind what's happening to the Avengers recruits and who is targeting them. Like, the reveal that Hank Pym is behind the deaths of the Avengers because his daughter died was a surprise, to say the least. And a lot of people had issues with this because it kind of came out of nowhere. And yes, it's true, in mysteries you should have hints scattered throughout that would basically allow the audience to figure out, what's happening. But if they had done that, like, it would have been too obvious, and therefore I wouldn't have enjoyed it as much. Like, I love the, like, surprise element, the shock element, but if, like, we had learned that Hope died or whatever, then it's like, okay, well, maybe it's Hank Pym, like, whatever. But, yeah, the ways they managed to combine several MCU movies and still tell a completely different story kind of made this episode a standout for me. Like, we had episode 1, which was basically carbon copy. Then episode 2, we had, a lot more changes. And episode 3, we really sort of went and were like, here's all the movies. Like, here's all of Phase 1 movies. But we're not telling any of those stories beat for beat. I really enjoyed that. And even though the events spanned a week, we kind of still got to sit in each big moment. I think maybe we could have sat in it a little bit more. But, I mean, we had to get through killing all the Avengers. So, it kind of had to go a little bit quicker. And I also liked the idea that the moment that changed everything happened like 2 years before, and we're sort of seeing the trickle down effect of that. Because we sort of got to see all the catalyst moments in episode 1 and episode 2. Like, we saw Peggy getting the super soldier serum. We saw T'Challa basically being taken in by Yondu. And this episode, like, the moment that changed the story, we did not see it on screen because it happened 2 years ago. Hope, went to Odessa and died. And I'm thinking that it might have been the mission that Natasha went on in MCU timeline, where she first survived the Winter Soldier attack. So instead of Natasha going and surviving, Hope went and died. And therefore, all the Avengers are dying because Hank's like, no. Yeah, so I really like that. In second place, I have episode 8, What If Ultron Won? It's a scary reality to live in, but what if Ultron won? Like, the episode basically puts Natasha and Clint front and center as they're sort of essentially the only remaining people in that universe. Like, I love the fact that when they found the file on Zola, it was like, we upload him to Ultron. And I'm like, okay, that could work in theory. But also, like, Zola, yeah, he's in the computer now, but also, like, he's a little bit unhinged. Like, I don't think uploading a villain to a villain is going to work out well. But, yeah, they just sort of have that idea, and it's like, okay, let's do it. And look, was it evil of them to give us a reimagining of the Endgame sacrifice, where instead of Natasha jumping to her death, Clint jumps to his death? Yeah, it was a little cruel of them, but you know what? I wish Natasha lived in Endgame. So, this was a little bit of, a justice for Natasha for me. Yeah. Ultron versus the Watcher? I mean, literally, like, up until this point, the only other person that had been able to see the Watcher was Strange Supreme. But, like, he didn't see the multiverse. He only saw the Watcher. Ultron saw the Watcher, saw the multiverse, and basically challenged the Watcher to actually do something. Because the Watcher did not do nothing throughout this whole show. Like, he's just lurking in the background, watching these character stories unfold, and it's like, I feel like we could have stepped in a little bit. But, okay, whatever. But basically, Ultron forcing the Watcher to take action was really cool. But also, the episode does a good job of being an episode on its own, while also setting up the big battle to come in the finale. So, yeah, I mean, it was a good episode all around. But finally, we come to first place, which is episode 9, What If the Watcher Broke His Oath? Finally, Let's get this Watcher doing something. Like, I love that he's, like, going around to all these different, like, universes and, like, plucking people out of them. But the big thing that I loved, personally, was Peggy and Natasha having scenes in multiple universes. I love it. I love it. Peggy and Natasha is always a dynamic that I wish we got to see, but obviously was never going to happen because, you know, Peggy basically died. So, yeah, seeing Peggy and Natasha have scenes together, I'm like, thank you. That's all I needed. But, like, the Watcher going around plucking people out of their universes to bring them together, like, he brings Killmonger, and I'm like, okay, but Killmonger's the villain, so why are we bringing him in? And then it was even more confusing when he just sort of left Natasha out of this. Like, you were so desperate for Natasha to find the file on Zola in hopes that it could defeat Ultron. And when it comes to assembling your team, you're just like, nah, Natasha can hang back for now. It's like, so we're leaving Natasha out, but we're taking Killmonger. What is happening? But, I mean, the fact that he did that because he sort of foresaw that, you know, they weren't supposed to win. They were just supposed to sort of separate the stones from the universe. And he knew that Killmonger would betray them and everything like that. It was like, okay. Like, now I get it. But also, I don't get why we couldn't pick up Natasha and have one more person on the team. But, I mean, Natasha found her way there all on her own. So, yay. I think just, it was like an interesting turn to take that the villains weren't supposed to die. Like, the heroes were supposed to win, but they were supposed to win in the case of the villains not dying. I think that was a really interesting twist to have there. I also like when Strange Supreme brings in the zombies and Thor's like, ooh, zombies, that'll work, right? And he's like, yeah, no, it's about what came with the zombies. And then you get Zombie Wanda just destroying Ultron. But it doesn't work. Like, it did. What that moment did was set up how powerful Ultron was, because Zombie Wanda and Strange Supreme, you know, arguably the two most powerful beings, couldn't defeat him. And then, I mean, you add Thor in there, and yeah, I mean, Party Thor isn't exactly, you know, the brightest bulb, but, you know, he's also very powerful in his own right as well, and he wasn't able to defeat Ultron. It's like, they have made Ultron this very powerful villain simply by showing the three most powerful people here cannot defeat him. I loved it. Like, and another thing that I loved about that was that the Watcher seems to have some decency in him, because I was wondering, because he was just sitting back letting everybody die, and I'm like, is that necessary? Like, is it necessary for them all to die? Like, but, like, he sends Natasha to the universe in which the Avengers died so that she could fight alongside Carol and Steve and Fury, instead of sending her back to her universe where literally everything is dead. So that was nice. I love when Fury is just like, you're not my Natasha, but I think you have the same spirit as her. And it's like, oh, Fury and Natasha are the best. I love them. But also, like, not entirely sure whether the Watcher had anything to do with the post-credit scene. But if he did, he's also giving Peggy her happy ending, potentially. Like, we see that Peggy's back. Natasha's like, girl, what's wrong with you? Like, and Peggy's like, okay, so she doesn't know that I left. Great. And then Natasha basically tells her this is what they wanted. They wanted the Hydra Stomper. And Natasha tells her there's somebody inside. We don't see who's inside. But it's heavily implied that Steve is inside. So, all for that. But I think that maybe there might be a twist coming with that. And that twist may be potentially tackled in season 2. I don't know. Like, I hope we get to figure out who is inside the Hydra Stomper, whether it's Steve or somebody else. Yeah. But mainly the thing I loved about episode 9 was watching all the episodes paid off. Like, because this whole time I was like, okay, I don't mind these episodes, but these episodes are feeling a lot like one-offs. Like, it feels like we're not going to do anything with these episodes. Like, they're just fun little stories. And, I mean, I wouldn't have minded if that was the case, but I love that we brought it all together in the end. So, yeah. That was my ranking based off of my personal preferences. Yeah. I'm really curious, though, to hear what everyone else's ranking is. Let me know in the comments down below. And if you don't want to rank all 9 episodes, just tell me which one was your favorite, which one was your least favorite. Really, really curious to see how people's opinions differ from mine and each other's, because that's the beauty of everything. We can all see the same thing, but we can all have different opinions on it. So, I'm really curious to hear what everybody thought about What If and their episode rankings. And if you like this video, you can leave a like, hit the subscribe button if you haven't already, and click the notification bell so you'll be notified when I upload my latest videos. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you all in another video. Bye, guys.